Take me to that happy hour I never had. Show me the girl I never met, I want it so bad. Where is that golden palace? Where is that whore called destiny? I think she ran on without me.
Goodness, do you have it tonight on our finale of season 2? We are going to shift gears tonight. Instead of going to the past to all of these places where the people are using drugs that I've been taking you all, we're going to go to the future. So tonight it all comes together in this fantastic finale. Your people will dream dreams and see visions. This is fantastic. Here we are tonight in honor of Lady Babylon in our Satanic initiation. And tonight I'm going to take you to a moment. We've got a couple of videos for you, and these videos will act as bridges for you to continue within. Those of you who are keeping the pact, for those to continue forward, make forward progress. So the images tonight that I'll be giving you are very, very important. Can we pull up? And I think it might frighten some people a little bit. Tonight may be a little bit frightening, and that's okay. It's a little bit of a Halloween special kind of thing feel to it. Love it. It's a little creepy too. Anyway, here we go. Here we go. I want to bring up this first passage to you tonight, just so we can figure out before we set the time ship. Yeah, before we set the time ship. Here we go. Yeah, I want us to read this. It's a little pronouncement in Acts 2:17. Yeah, in the completion, in the days of completion, right? In that final time, we're talking about a narrative here, right? So in that final completion, right? God says, I pour out from my pneuma, from his breath, from his spirit. He pours it out upon all living things, all flesh. If you have flesh and you can drink from that flesh, yes, excellent. Suck it in. It's a Bacchic thing. Love it. Anyway, let's keep going. What do they do when they're in this moment, when they're in the mystery, right? I heard another scholar today talking about, we don't know it's the mysteries, it's mysterious. You guys are pathetic. You're pathetic. They will prophesy, right? They'll be that prophet. They'll be able to tell you beforehand, right? And tell me, who's going to be able to do this? Your sons and your daughters? That's cool. That's cool. Sons and daughters prophesying. That's nice. And your neaniskoi, your young people, right? What are they going to do? They're going to dream dreams, right? Excuse me. They're going to see the visions, orases, the things to be seen, right? They're going to have the visions. And what are the presbyteroi? What are those people doing? The old people, right? The old people are in upneos. They're in that incubation, right? It's a kind of a really beautiful concept the Greeks have of entering into the temple in order to find that place of healing. You can take it down. To find that place of healing and to come through a vision. Yeah, you're entering that, right? So we are entering a phase in that final eschaton, right? The culmination. We are, the purpose, right? This is one of Celsus's big arguments with the Christians, is that, the divine can't act contrary to nature, right? So it's got to make sense, and it's got to be according to, you know, what you see around. It's got to mesh with what you see. No fairy tales, right? We don't follow that fairy tale stuff. To jump to the Christians right away, I want to introduce them now. And for those of you who've come who know already, Jesus Christ was arrested in a public park in the early hours of the morning, in a pre-dawn raid, pretty significant, calls himself a child trafficker. We're at that point now that we're going to, you know, we've got to come to climax here tonight. We've got to reach the point. So I want you to, we're going to get in, we're going to see these drug users for what they are, what they're doing. We're going to smell, we're going to taste, we're going to do everything that they're doing. So I'm going to pull out Celsus just for a short quote, right? I just want you to listen to it. Talking about the Christians, he says, they are really very dishonest, borrowing even their incantations from other religions in their magic acts. So there's a couple of things that are fantastic about that. Number one, they're doing magic acts, right? So, and number two, they are borrowing, right? They're borrowing. This is what drives them nuts. They're incantations. These are the incantations that the Christians are doing. You're like, wait, stop the ship. Wait, I don't feel good. A little bit queasy. It doesn't make sense, right? Yeah, the Christians are doing incantations. Now, I want to show you this video. I want to launch you from Celsus to this living present, right? To this living present. We're just going to, before the ship stops completely, we're going to open the door and get some air from, you know, just the recent past. We're going to use that air to kind of fill our lungs, and then we're going to step out into that future. Okay. Hit the first one, please, Chewy.
Jesus Christ, we invoke your name. Amen.
Let's all say a prayer. Let's sing things first. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for gracing us with this opportunity. Thank God. Thank you, Heavenly Father.
Amen.
For this opportunity to stand up for our God-given unalienable rights. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us into the building, to allow us to exercise our rights, to allow us to send a message to all the tyrants, the communists, and the globalists that this is our nation, not theirs. That we will not allow the American way of the United States of America to go down. Thank you.
Right? Here we go. We're ready. We're back there in time. Get your setting, right? We're all on the throne. Here we go. We're back there in time. Just take that air in. We're going to take one more breath of that. And as we breathe in that air, you're entering what can only be called the space. It's like a room, right? You're entering the eremon. That's where we are, right? We're in that place where the Magus operates, right? Here we are. You know the devil's going to show up sometime, right? Fantastic. Hit it again.
Thank you, divine, omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent creator God, for filling this chamber with your white light of love, your white light of harmony. Thank you for filling this chamber with patriots that love you and that love Christ. Thank you, divine, omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent creator God, for blessing each and every one of us here and now. Thank you, divine creator God, for surrounding us with your divine, omnipresent white light of love and protection, peace and harmony. Thank you for allowing the United States of America to be reborn. Thank you for allowing us to get rid of the communists, the globalists, and the traitors within our government. We love you and we thank you. In Christ's holy name we pray. Amen.
So who are these people who broke into the state's temple? This is the holiest ground. This is the holiest ground of any of us who call ourselves a part of the American experiment. This is the holiest ground that we've got. Yeah. And they took a dump on your image. Yeah. Yeah. Who are these people? How are they? Are they known associates of or the person we're investigating? Let's see. They're the known associates in the now. Now let's project forward. Are you ready? You're going to feel a little bump here. We're going to be seeing the future. We're right at the present, right now. Hit it. Yeah, it turns out we got a bad throw of the dice. Yeah, we got a bad throw of the dice, and the sortes have come up. You're boned. Yeah, this is where we are. We're within the structure of this thing, this phenomenon that's happening. They're calling it right now the last revival. Okay, think about that for a minute. Think about that for a minute. And we have them springing up now. One's been going on for 2 weeks, right? These are outpourings. These are outpourings of anti-government sentiment. Yes, yes. The Romans faced the same thing. They faced the same thing. It's like 185, somewhere in that range. They had an insurrection, right? They had people who were in a state of fervor, right? Those people know. Those people are tapped in. Their master was a magus, right? Those people are tapped into what the currents of the magic are. Just ask them, ask these people, turn to your evangelical sitting next to you and ask them where we are in the last times. They will jump right in, and you'll get a complete, total explanation of reality constructed around you. You get an image of a world, right, projected from this individual or this group of individuals. Yeah, this is the operation of the mystery. This is the operation of the mystery. Your people will dream dreams. They'll have visions. Yes. Yeah, that's all originating from this world. From this world. Bring that up, Chewy. Excellent, excellent. I just want to read this to you real quick. Smerdalein de gigantos. Oh, you recognize the word for giant, right? Nice. You like the word for giant? Yeah. Edon. Yeah, what's this? What's going on? We're talking about Ophiuchos. Ophiuchos in the next line. He's there, that shining Ophiuchos. What is an Ophiuchos? It's one who holds or has or possesses, echo, the office, right? The serpent. Now, the trick for this little game is right now, this is a puzzle, what I'm showing you. And you have to fit together the puzzle to tell me what it means. What it means. And for those who are playing the game and want to figure it out, if you throw it up first, the answer first, you get an extra point on next Sabbath. Yeah, very good. Okay, so let's look at this shining Ophiuchus, constellation. Do we bring constellations in? And yeah, that's nice. There you go. Notice that it's solar, right? That this is a sun, moon, and stars. Okay, this is Bronze Age. Good, good. Old. This is the old-fashioned religion. Oh, this is gorgeous. This is 1,000 years before Christianity was even a figment of somebody's imagination, right? So look at the humanity here. This is what I love. Is you guys love this stuff. I have to earn that love, of course, right? And I appreciate your. I'm trying to bring you the best. This is good stuff. Let me try to show you. Look at that third word end on the second line down. This is line 245. Alexikakon, right? He's shaking something from his hands, right? He shakes from his hands. What kind of hands does he have? He has hands that are antidotal. Not anecdotal, but antidotal. It's what it's saying, literally. And not literally in the modern sense. Anything can be literal, right? In the actual sense. Yeah. It's the antidote. He's got the antidote on his hands. What's going on? And who's this he? Yeah, Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus. Yeah, so he shakes off. He shakes off. He has a little seismic tremor. Yeah, and he shakes off the translated back. Yeah, he's taking away the power. He's putting off the back. Yeah. Of the what? The back of what? The back of the fire-nourished dragons. Wow. Okay, so I'm a little bit confused, right? And this comes across in translation. Read your translation of it, and you'll see it's a little bit messy for what's going on. What is this person doing, right? He then takes out and activates his bow. Yeah, he activates his bow. He sends out that, ready? Keep your analog going, people, because you're right. We're getting to the images that you need. He takes out his curved arrow, right? He is hitting on the Loxias. They call him Loxias Apollo because of his oblique nature. Yes. Yeah. Apollo prophesies in the oblique. When that priestess, the Pythia, like the one that was screaming at Paul, yeah, they prophesy in what's called in the oblique. They are Loxian. Yeah, good. So that last line there at the bottom, I just want you to notice oistoi. That word in the end there. These arrows, these viperine or viper-derived arrows of the oblique nature of Apollo, when they are used, they bacheo the air. They turn the air into the Bacchic mania. Okay, so we've all been together, and with these clues, you can see a picture that's emerging of the right? And you can see an understanding that, number one, they're using venoms, right? They're using venoms. And like our guys from last week who are using the purple, they're seeing visions. And these visions are oracular. And they go back to the fire-nourished dragons. Yeah, and remember I told you that the dragons are not an order, but they're actual people. That's where we're, making contact with the real, right? These are real people. So when we have bulls that breathe fire, yeah, and when we have wolves that change their skin, you're talking about groups of people, Yeah, people who have certain magic abilities. Yeah, whether they're the singers or the singers that change time. Yeah, this is good. This is good stuff. So, amen. Amen is a phrase that you need to get stuck in your head, right? I am the amen. When you see those people stepping forward into your temple and desecrating it, right? Your loyalty is not to a political party. Your loyalty is to that shrine. It's to that which is the American symbol. And I think people understand that very well. The classical world was big on building monuments, and bringing that constant veneration of what was beautiful forward, right? You don't desecrate those holy areas, because when you do, you lose the benefit of that power completely. You lose the benefit of the republic, right? It's only when, Tom says, it's only when the blood is shed on the roots of the tree of liberty, right? If you do not take care of your insurrection, it will happen repeatedly. I tell you, as a student of Roman history, right? When you allow the insurrection goes unpunished, you end up with more. You end up with more. But what's curious is these insurrections have to be fueled by a combustible component, something that's going to spark and set things on fire. I want you to watch again the very last clip that we showed. And this is the modern event. This is happening. And as this is happening, the fire that is within, again, analog, the fire that is within that compound has to be sparked, and boom, it'll go up. And it happens time after time after time, right? Very readily predictable. Run that clip again, please. Tom also said that the greatest threat to the fledgling American democracy was the Presbyterians. I'm sure you had to be back then to us that wouldn't be really mean the same thing. But this revival that is happening is a part of history. It's a cycle. And what you're going to see is its effervescence. It's going to grow. It started, and it's going to grow to a point that it spills over and must bring the destruction of what is contrary to it around it. It breaks out. It's a power that breaks out. I want to quote to you just a little bit of Lycophron to take us now to the prophetic side. And I'm going to pull out who somebody called the Cimmerian Sibyl. Somebody called the Cimmerian Sibyl. Yeah, and I want you to know that the Cimmerian Sibyl talked about the dipsas, the thirst that is induced, and that she said the darkness, this may sound familiar, the sun would become darkened. The word is shaded, full of as if it's creeping up and pulling out its power. That is from the Cimmerian Sibyl via Lycophron. She also, within these prophecies, we have, for example, Athens, right? And we have the telling of the war between Athens and Persia. Yeah, specifically Xerxes. Yeah, and we have that preserved within it. So we have these ancient prophecies. Remember, the early Christians were called Sibylists for a reason, right? So are we seeing a return of that? Yes, we are seeing a return of the reactivation of the mystery. Yeah. And it's happening as we speak and will have an effect. Will have an effect. So I want to say a quick appreciation. I also brought some Nicander that I wanted to talk about because he uses go to the priests that use the terminology of the mysteries and you can see what's really happening. Fantastic. And again, the modern day scholars, they're just like, you ask them about a mystery and they're like, oh, that's why the word mystery is there. And next time they do, you stop them and you say, look, you cannot take me in the back alley today, right? You can't. So that's why I had that priest waiting for you. But I just want to say it's been an outstanding season. And from the productive nature of what you have been bringing forward and all of the groups that have been active, the individuals, very intelligent, driven individuals who have stepped forward and who have made this interaction so worthwhile to me with your great feedback. I'm looking at your visions. Yeah, I'm looking at your visions for the secretive group that's on the inside that nobody knows about. Right? Keep up the work. Keep up the work because we have to refuse to become this. Right? We're not going that way. We're going reason. And if the proper resolution of that we saw tonight, if the proper resolution is the antidote, then shouldn't we be seeking the antidote? Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's been a privilege and an honor to serve with you. I will have one Bible study on Wednesday, and then I will take a week and recoup, which means I will spend time pulling up the sources that I believe would be most desired by you at that time, right? Come on, people. You don't need to keep coming back unless there's real good stuff, unless I can pull out the good stuff, right? I mean, are you in there? Yeah, I've got to pull out the good stuff and I've got to bring that to you. And now that we have figured out how to navigate this ship and how to be able to get into those positions where we can see what they're doing in antiquity, now it's time to say, hey, we need to dig in, and we need to go the places that people are not going to naturally be drawn to. We got to go to those dark places, and we got to work with them. I have enjoyed myself tremendously this time, guys. Thank you so much. We've got a couple of people. Looks like Snappy Snappy, welcome, Snappy. We need introduction music for Snappy.
And
Snappy, you saw the people tonight gathered together in that assembly, and you saw them perform an action that can only be described as ecstatic, right? That was pure ecstasy, whether they were in the Capitol or whether they were in that church. Tell me, how does that make you feel from your perspective? And tell us, were you there? Have you been in that? How's it make you feel?
Yeah, it makes me disgusted, to be honest, because it's very clear that these people have an agenda, and anyone who's intimate or familiar with the church knows what that agenda is. It's agenda of genocide. It's agenda of control. And you saw how they were raising their arms up. They're drawing down that spirit, right, of Christ. They're becoming possessed. They're becoming frenzied. They're trying to block out all reason, all thought, so that they can just focus on this mission, this Christian national insanity. And it blows my mind. It blows my mind.
Yeah. And if you watch, they've got a live feed. I highly recommend that people tune into the live feed of what's going on in Kentucky right now. And what direction the people are. They sing of kingdom, and they sing of power on earth, and they sing of with trumpets. They have their horns out, and they're blowing their horns, blah 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 blah, and they're getting it. You can feel the ecstasy moving up, and people come up and they prostrate themselves and they enter that place, right? I mean, we could put their pictures up on ancient walls and it wouldn't change, it wouldn't be any different. How does it, do you think that this is some sort of awakening? What is this? What is this thing they're doing?
This is a panic. This is what happens when things are in their death throes. They're recognizing that the culture is moving on, and they're lashing out, and they're lashing out with everything they have so that they can reassert their dominance. This is Kronos devouring his children in paranoia. That's what we're seeing here.
Oh, I like that. That's why, excuse me. I like that. That's why. Yeah, that's why. Oh God, I love the image. It's like the struggling. They know that their downfall is imminent, right? Because they did this in the first century as well, right? And people say, no, it wasn't Nero, right? It wasn't the Christians that Nero was saying. The government was saying it's the Christians that burned the city down. And the Christians were saying, no, it was Nero, right? Why? Because I don't think Nero was out setting fires. Scholars debate this. And I'm like, why are you debating something that is so patently stupid, right? Of course, Nero wasn't out setting fires and burning his own city down, right? This is the conflagration that always comes. It's a cleansing, right? The frenzy is maxed out. And did anybody see the guy was wearing horns? Who's right. You can't get more ecstatic, right? In the name of Jesus, right? Amen.
Amen.
Snappy, tell me, is it being too much of an alarmist? Or are we accurately predicting the future that we're on our way to another insurrection, right? It's not going to stop because
it's not going to stop. It's not stopping because, right? Like, I'm not an American, but it's happening here in my country too, in Canada. We're seeing the same kind of extremification. You're seeing the same kind of vilification of gender minorities. Look at what's going on with Putin, like you showed in the episode on Wednesday, right? Putin is making this change, and he's making the new young people the enemy. He's coming at us with everything he has to try and assert that Christian national control, right? Because they're on the way out. That whole methodology, that whole way of thinking, it's dead, it's old, it's tired, and it's stagnant. It's time for it to go, right? We got to castrate them.
Yeah, what do people think? I wonder, maybe we can take a poll of the chat, but do people think that that beast is dead or dying? We'll say at least dying. Or is this resurgence of their power? I mean, look, they got to 30%, and all the historians would tell you, you get a third of the population support, you can do anything. You can pull down your republic with just 30% support, right? So they achieved critical mass. And here they go. It may be a while before somebody goes into Canadian holy space and desecrates it. But do you see that coming?
Oh, yeah. So I used to live in the capital city of Ottawa, and I would have to walk by the parliament every single day. And there are people who have been posted out there 24/7 with massive signs saying "fuck Trudeau" and the world is ending, and like we need to bring God back into Parliament. And they scream and assault at people who are just walking around wearing masks. They blare terrible Christian music. It's like I've never seen this kind of level of antagonism here in Canada. People don't act like this here. You know, we're far more controlled about it, but not anymore. There's like this rampant, fervent insanity. And like for the first time in a long time, we're starting to see people who identify like this. Like we have a far right leader named Pierre Poilievre who uses a lot of that language. You know, he doesn't come out and say it, but it's this polite way of talking to those extremists. He is a Christian nationalist by any other word, if you really listen, you know, and that's how these people are. They're manipulative and they're all about power. They do anything, you know, to get
Do you think you guys are getting that on your own, or should America call its doctor and find out, you know, maybe do you think we infected you, or has this always been?
It's a combination, because we're so interconnected to America that whatever happens in America, we have a mirroring effect here. But I also can't kid myself. This kind of extreme conservatism and this nationalism and Christian stuff has existed in many different forms in many different ways since the colonial age. So it's an intrinsic part of Canada as well.
Yeah, that's why I always laugh when I read Jefferson all scared about the Presbyterians, right? He was like, no, they're the biggest threat right now, right? So it makes me wonder if what is it? Is it something within the system? The program is running and it runs throughout centuries, but it's got a consistent code in it that tells you abort and terminate, right? And then all of the it doesn't scare people that it's kind of zombie like. I mean, you know what I mean? It's a little bit zombie like, isn't it?
Right.
Is it, you know, question. How does it stop? How do you stop something like this? If you're a Roman in the first century, right? The answer is a crackdown, a government crackdown, right? Where you don't worship. If you're going to tear stuff up, we're not going to allow you to worship, you know, get out of here kind of thing. And you crucify some of them and show people this is what happens when you do this, right? You can't.
We also see the end outcome in Rome with that kind of thinking, right? That extreme kind of thinking that led to crusades against itself. That's what fundamentally destroys Rome, right? When the Catholics and the Orthodox divide over ridiculous linguistics and philosophy, you know, and that's what we're going to see with what's happening in America. Even, you know, if they succeed in their mission, they're just going to destroy themselves. It's inevitable, right? We're seeing this hollowing out. That's what's so ridiculous right now, is that America's attacking itself. You've always seen that machinery go out into the world and consume, but now it's turned inward. That's the death throes.
Well, and I think that's why Tom is so angry, because he said it happens every 100 to 150 years, right? That it's cyclical. So, you know, here we are after the Civil War. We're right at that mark where, yeah, this kind of thing is going to happen. And what do? Are we unionists? I mean, you got the same thing in Canada, same decision. They're going to have to figure out, are we unionists?
I think we need to, what you need to do is revitalize. We need to embrace change. We need to take on that new Dionysian energy. We need to get rid of the old, stagnant, and be reborn again in a vitality, and then have the cycle replay, right? Like, we need to bring her back, right?
It makes me know that, you know, efforts in building the Tower of Babel are progressing, because that's really what you need. You need some kind of universal communication for the people to be able to respond to this cataclysmic, effervescent. You know, they're screaming in the video of the insurrection. They're screaming open revolution, right? They're screaming it. They've 1776. Here we go. You know, they're and.
But what also we need to pay attention to there, it's this extreme magical thinking too, because when you listen to them, it shows their ignorance. Like, they're talking about saving America, and it's like they're pissing all over the Constitution. Even me, as not an American, knows them bringing God into this and talking about turning it into a Christian anything is totally anathema to everything America stands for. And it doesn't make sense.
Is Canada going to stand with America as we go through this? Or, I mean, there's no reason that it couldn't hit both of us, and you guys end up having your form of a civil war, right? I mean, it's been 150 years for us. Maybe you're in for a natural one as well. And this kind of global, you know, it only makes sense, dude. We're all over the planet now, right? So
it does.
One country goes through this ecstasy and starts marching out people of whatever gender or belief that they want, and killing them or torturing them or stuff like that.
We've already seen a parallel exactly happen along the same lines in Brazil. It was the same people following the QAnon cult. They even tried it on the same day, January 6th, to much the same results, where the military and the police came in and just surrounded and arrested everyone, but they still attempted it. They still walked into their holiest sites and desecrated them in the name of God, and the same insanity. And like, yeah, I think right now we have Trudeau, who is a phony liberal centrist who just says what everyone wants to hear. But what we're seeing in Canada is this extreme fervor that I have never witnessed. I have never seen people hate someone so much, and that is dangerous. I don't know what comes next, but yeah, we're not in any much better a place.
Yeah, see, that's why I wanted to have a conversation from the beginning, right? Where are we, right? What can we rationally say then? We're at a point where there's going to be some sort of tipping over. And, you know, the secessionists here in the States are going to be loud enough and do something extreme enough to set off that natural kindle that's there. And they're all saying they want to, right? And the racists want to do it for the obvious reason, right? They just want the murder and the mayhem. But the evangelicals are doing it because, guess what? Same motive, right? They have a plan for the end times. And America's not there. If you listen to any of these preachers, you were in the church. You know, I'm not, tell me if I'm saying truth or not, Snappy. But they're saying there's no America. They're prophets. They're people who are analyzing the prophets. They're all saying there is no America.
No,
right?
America is always equated usually with some kind of phony apocalypse, like they're going to burn, right? America is going to be, everything has to be destroyed, right? You have to have the Messiah arise in Israel. You know, this is the thing. America is always going to be corrupt. This was always an intense thing among a lot of people in the church that I went to, is whether or not you even participated in politics, because politics was so corrupted and was the tool of Satan. But most people did because they wanted to enforce their judgmental agenda on others, you know.
Right. And that's exactly what Celsus argues. Celsus says the Christians are putting the devil to use in that way, just as a foil. Just as a foil. If we have this huge eruption of this ecstatic Christianity that's able to spill over and overthrow governments, overthrow entire governments, it fulfills the evangelical understanding of prophecy that the United States is not in the apocalypse, that they have already been taken out. And what's funny is the guy that has to exist then, and you just get this off of, just go listen to some preachers, right? The guy that has to be there then is the great bear. And everybody says, we know who the great bear is, who will come down to Gog and Magog. It's Vlad Putin, right? So the Christians are constructing their own reality around them, and ecstatically, and we don't even perceive of this until they get into the Capitol and take a dump, and some senators get realize, people could have died, right? And then we're in the spot that we're in. So I'm sorry to hear that you haven't had your overspillage yet, because it makes me feel like maybe it was something that originated here. Maybe it's a
we did have mass protests. So like in my home city, we had Ottawa, we had over a month and a half of a trucker protest where they blocked the entire downtown core. They occupied the city, which is the capital city. They couldn't make it to Parliament. But they like wouldn't stop blaring their horns. They were defecating in the streets. People were waving Confederate flags in Canada. People were wearing the most.
Wait. Let me see. I had heard, I had seen a report on that. Did not know that they were waving American Confederate flags.
Yeah, there was at least one that was documented for sure. And that person had repented and said, well, I just thought the flag meant freedom and I'm a libertarian, whatever. We all know. But there was also Nazi flags, and there was also stars of David that said sans vaccin, which means like no vaccines, because they were envisioning themselves as the Jews being persecuted by the government because the government was saying they had to get at least one mandatory vaccine.
Wait a minute. So in Canada, then, the extreme religious Jews and Christians, you call them evangelicals?
Yeah, these people weren't Jewish. These were all evangelical, all crazy people. They were just adopting Jewish symbolism, Hitlerian symbolism, to show how persecuted they are. They have this ridiculous persecution complex about how masks and social distancing and all of this stuff is some kind of insane oppression, and how they need to overthrow the government. And like literally, I worked downtown at a like an occult kind of shop in the Byward Market during the summer, and I would watch them walk into the Byward Market, which is like an open air like pavilion, and they'd just be like shouting about how Christ is going to come and destroy the Canadian government, and like how masks were the first beginning of this grand like they're oppressed because of fucking masks. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, people are dying of damn Ukraine, and you're bitching about masks.
Guess what they did to the Romans too, right? Rome must burn, right? Became it was the grand enemy of everything that was there, that wasn't their theocracy, right? So wow. What do you project as the future here? Let's try to intelligently figure this out. What's the next stage?
There's going to be some kind of overthrowing, right? Like this is cyclical. You see this time and time again across history, across everything. It may not have to be extreme violence, but it's going to have to be an actual transformation. There has to be a change where these people get removed, that they're no longer in the power that they have. Otherwise, like, I don't know. Like, I see an apocalypse moment on our hands here. And when I see apocalypse, it's like, it's either a rebirth or a destruction. It could go either way. And like these people that we're fighting up against, they're for stagnation. They're destroying and they're desecrating nature, the mother, with everything they have, and they're telling us to keep our heads in the sand while they continue to rape her until we all die. That's what we're facing here.
Yeah. What about these mobs? I'll ask this question. What about these mobs they're like flash mobs of evangelicals. It's not strictly just evangelicals. It's people who are filled with the Spirit, who are having, there's kind of revivals. There'll be bands that go to parks and set up, and they'll just get a flash mob, and it becomes an event. It becomes an event where people come and they enter into the ecstasy. What do you do? The Romans said, you got to stop this. And they went in and broke it up and said, you can't meet like this, right? You can't meet. So, and they tagged everybody by the drugs they were using, right? That was the thing for them. How do you stop these flash mobs that they haven't turned violent yet? They haven't turned violent yet. Right. So,
well, I would say I would push back slightly on that, because they have turned violent in some respects. We've seen mass shootings targeting LGBT events, and you see a lot of these people target specifically drag shows or drag story time. And usually you'll have specific antagonistic forces that are present, like the Proud Boys, with their iconography and their, no fapping and their extreme aggression. And, they're out to target certain kinds of individuals and as pedophiles, like,
and they're waiting. They're waiting for this thing called the storm, and they're so well armed.
Yeah, you have your Boogaloo Boys, right? Those guys with the guns who are actually trying to, and like they pretend to be on other people's side so that they can infiltrate and start a revolution. And if you pay attention to these darker places on the internet, it's all very clear. Like all these people, what it is that when people experience extreme isolation, extreme division and oppression, and we all see the bleakness, it brings out the mania, brings out the craziness. People react in all kinds of different ways, and a lot of these people, they get caught up in this Christian national frenzy, and it spills out in a variety of ways. It's not all unified, it's wild.
So if we're entering this apocalypse then, which I think it's fair to say, if we have violence at this level, right? And you talk about, I didn't dismiss it, but I didn't even consider it. Yeah, we've got shootings all the time that are, motivated by this same core, right? This very well-armed contingent. These are now enemies domestic, and they'll throw that around, right? As if it's funny. Right? Waving a Confederate flag. A Confederate flag and defecating on our monuments. What a mass. Is this the perfect apocalypse or what? I mean, we could have a natural extinction event here. You know what I mean? If we don't snap out of it, don't you think?
I think that's what I'm getting at. If we don't wake up and recognize what we're doing to nature, to our home, to our mother, what future is there, right? Like, there's none without her. And they insist on destruction.
Yeah, who were they praying to in the U.S. Capitol? They were praying to him. They were praying to a he God who doesn't have a problem with certain things like, killing people that aren't righteous and aren't part of the plan, right? I mean, these people argue. Look at the history of these people. These people argue about who is the most orthodox and why that clan ought to be taken out. Right?
I always think of I was always told about the 100 and I think it's like 37,000 or something, right? The chosen people who will get to rule over everyone for all eternity in Om Lambda, the world to come, right? After the apocalypse, when the world is reborn and you're living in this celestial theocracy for all fucking time. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare.
That's why I think I think the only solution is that Tower of Babel. If Christians knew that their own master, their own founder, their own God, the Son of God, was arrested in a public park with a naked boy and called himself a child trafficker and was part of a cult that involves sexual relations with children, I would, I don't know. Is there any way of snapping this? You know, sometimes stuff will burn itself out by using its oxygen up, right? And then it's gone. The fire goes away. Is there some place of reason, Snappy, that we could bring these people to, that we could show them and reasonably say, look, you know, it's not your fault that you've been worshiping a pedophile criminal.
This is an important thing, because honestly, I think it's a two-pronged thing. Number one, there has to be, like you said, reason and truth and honesty. There has to be a revealing. Anyone who breaks free of these kind of cults does so by being shown what it really is for what it is. Number one. But number two, there has to be a healing. There has to be an integration and an acceptance. You can't just exclude people. You have to, if people are willing to go through that transformation, that death, to abandon those attachments, those views, we have to accept them. We have to let people heal. And if you don't, that's when you extremify. Now you've not given people a way out. Now they're going. You're bound to fight each other. You know, we can't allow that.
No, I don't. Yeah, it's a global event. You know, the evangelicals will love this because it'll feed their flames, right? Because come on, man, that's all I'm doing is feeding their flames, right? It's very easy to get these people going, right? Because they want to bring the fulfillment of their own plan. They want to bring it. And what are they always yelling about? What did the guy yell about from the U.S. Capitol? Globalists, 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 coming from this old American dominionist theology, a theology anchored in an eschatology that was punctuated by revivals, right? So, of course, they're fearing the globalists. The globalists are those who would come in. But that what they don't realize is, and they always do this preemptively, right? It's like a political party that will throw something out that they're doing in order to like create a smoke screen, right? So you can't accuse them because they're already accusing the other leader of doing the same thing. The globalists out there, they're doing this with this globalist idea, when at the same time, the problem is global. Look what's sweeping across Russia into Georgia, and all of the fervor. I mean, did you see Putin's speech? It was all about his gaining the religious high ground, right? God hates these people,
and
right?
You know what?
That was the argument.
For me, it's always important to look at what these people hate and what they fear, okay? Why would they be opposed to globalism, right? Why are both Putin and Trump yelling about that? Why? Because that way they get to maintain their fiefdoms, right? They get to maintain their hegemony, but their hegemonies are dying. They're old. They're falling apart. We have to move on. We have to let this stuff go and be reborn into something greater, right? Like, we're in a state of absolute insanity at this moment. Like someone like Putin, everyone in the world is telling him the writing is on the walls. You have to diversify. You can't stay with all of this raw resources. You have to try and incorporate. And his whole thing is what? No, fuck the entire world. You guys are the enemy. And then I'm creating this whole third Rome. And it's a war, right? You guys are trying to destroy God, and we have to protect the masculine Jesus and the masculine God. Like, we all saw that.
And what's funny is they never consider that Jesus was, people complained about him, came to the disciples and complained about him and said he's touching the kids inappropriately. Tell him to stop. right? None of that, all of that stuff just leaks through history until you get down to a modern Westerner holding up a sign that says, Jesus saves pro-life, right? Then you realize, oh my God, look at what's happened just through the flow of history, what's happened with this incredible mania that's come along. Snappy, it's an honor. Thank you for I took up too much of your time tonight, only because it's fascinating. And I thank you for coming. And if you want to say goodbye, say goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. And if you want to, we'll probably be on the Discord in a few. Come there and say hi. Take care and have a good night. Hail Satan.
Hail Satan, everyone.
Show me the girl I never met. I want it so bad. Where is that golden palace? Where is that horse called destiny? I think she ran off without me.